Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. Today I wanted to talk to you about your claim. Your VA claim, whether you filed one in the past and you're filing another now, or this is your first claim ever with the VA for disability compensation. Wanted to talk to you about two main points here. One, making sure that you get service connected. In other words, you don't get denied from the VA. And number two, making sure that you get that appropriate rating. It shouldn't be a game of blindfolded darts with regard to your VA claim. All the information's out there, and you should be able to ascertain what your rating should be and if you should be service connected. Now, granted, the VA will screw up, and yes, you may get denied. However, you are going to have much more ammunition and power moving into your appeals process if need be. So with that, let's jump into it with those two specific things in mind. Getting service connected, not getting denied. Getting service connected and getting the appropriate rating. It's kind of a two-part process, and if you have the ability to make sure you package everything up along the way appropriately, you'd want to make sure you handle those two aspects of your VA claim. So with that, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. I truly appreciate it. All of the support helps to get this information into the hands of those that need it. All right, so let's jump into it here. Number one, file your intent to file. That has nothing to do with making sure your claim is approved or at the rating you want, but it does allow you to take a knee and make sure that you're documenting everything you need to, because you are preserving that effective date. So put in the intent to file, the ITF. You can do it online, you can mail it in, you can call the VA even and let them know, I'm veteran so-and-so and I'd like to put in an intent to file. Now, you always want to inspect what you expect. What do I mean? When you file your intent to file, give it a few days, call the VA and make sure that they have your intent to file. The VA, surprisingly, has been known to screw up. So you want to make sure, right, that you're squared away and that you're taken care of. Nobody can do it better than you with regard to checking in the status of things. So make sure that you check in to make sure that your intent to file is in place. Number two, here we go. You now need to make sure that you have everything in line for your service connection. What do I mean? It takes three things, essentially, for your service connection. Your time in service creates the window of opportunity, unless we're talking about presumptives. But presumptives is another situation. I'll touch base on it maybe in a second here. So, barring presumptives, you need to have your time in service. You need to have a diagnosed condition. Must be chronic in nature or have some sort of residual effects. And third, you need to have a nexus, a link between the condition and your time in service. Now that's where a Nexus Letter comes into effect, and you've heard this from many of us on YouTube. Nexus Letters, right? It can help you establish the nexus. You need to have the link between your time in service and your diagnosed condition. Now, what does that link need to look like? I like to explain it this way. You need to prove to the VA that your condition either manifested during your time in service or is a result of your time in service. Now, ideally, the best case scenario for anybody is that you actually got diagnosed while you were in service. The date of the diagnosis in your military service treatment records showing that you were diagnosed in the middle of your time in service creates the nexus. Super easy. However, most of us, unless it's an injury, most of us aren't getting diagnosed for things while we're in service, or at least not for everything while we're in service. So the second best thing is that maybe somewhere in your service treatment records you mentioned some sort of a condition. Maybe you mentioned migraines on a self-assessment, physical health assessment, the self-assessment where you're checking the yeses and nos. Maybe you mentioned heartburn, which would be a symptom of GERD, so that makes it easy to kind of go back in time and go, you complained about it here, you just weren't formally diagnosed, right? So you got diagnosed after, but we're looking for indicators that your condition manifested during your time in service. Now, let's say you don't have anything or very sparse mentions of any sort of symptoms in your service treatment records. Then you're going to want to lean on those other avenues. I call it manufacturing evidence. Getting those letters from folks that you know, maybe people that you served with, maybe family members that could attest to knowing that you suffered from, let's say, sleep apnea while you were in service. You know, people throwing boots at you in the middle of the night to wake you up because it sounded like you were dying. Or they saw you eating handfuls of Tums or Rolaids or antacids, whatever, right? I mean, they're all antacids. You get the point. Family members, people that you served with, anybody that can attest to witnessing you with whatever your condition is, migraine, headaches, whatever it was during your time in service. Essentially, you didn't have them before. You started having these problems when you were in. You can follow that up with the Nexus letter from your doctor, basically explaining that your condition is at least likely as not, as a minimum, at least likely as not to have manifested or as a result of your time in service, whatever kind of avenue is the most appropriate, including, they can also, actually not including, but they could also put in that it is more than likely due to your time in service or manifested during your time in service, and that's fine too. So now you're manufacturing that evidence to help you get that successful claim, to get that approval from the VA. Now, in this process, you've put in your intent to file, you're gathering all your evidence, you're getting letters, you can write your own letter as well, explaining that you self-treated or you didn't realize that you had that condition during your time in service and you just kind of dealt with it. Whatever your situation is, you want to outline it and explain it in a way that makes sense. Then you're going to want to move over and start working with maybe the DBQs online, the disability questionnaires for your conditions. You want to not just give your doctor that DBQ to fill out, but give them the appropriate information to stick in there. What do I mean? The schedule of ratings. Utilize the schedule of ratings for all of your conditions. Read through them. Some of them are what they are, right? Like range of motion, it's going to be what it is. But things like heartburn, bad GERD, right? Bad heartburn, GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease, or migraine headaches, things like that, you're going to have to explain your symptoms. Now, reading the schedule of ratings will help you see where you fall on the rating schedule. Are you a 30%? Are you a 50% for migraines? Are you a 30% or a 60% currently for GERD until May 19th? Now, wherever you fall is where you fall. You know you better than anybody. So take that information, give the information directly from the schedule of ratings to your doctor. Let them put that same verbiage in the disability questionnaire for you directly from the schedule of ratings. Use that same information from the schedule of ratings in your CMP exams. Print it out, take it with you, read it. Make sure that you're relaying the exact same information to the CMP examiner. Now you have all that information that you have available for the VA raters to be able to read and compare and contrast to the schedule of ratings, and they're going to see the same information over and over again, and they're going to make it's going to make it easy for them to rate you appropriately. So with that, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. Have a great one, and remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.